Alright, I have no idea. This is our first live. Our first Wool to Gold live. I've never been to, or our first YouTube live, I should say. And I'll probably post this after the fact. Maybe, if it's interesting. I'm not really sure. But yeah, if you guys have questions or anything like that, feel free to pop in. Again, I'm still kind of learning, like, how it all works, so we're gonna see. Ooh, I can do a poll. Okay, very cool. Very cool. Right now we're just carting up a little bit of Rommeldale that I dyed with lac. And I've been wanting to make a bat out of this. I think I'm gonna add some fun colors or some like fun add-ins and stuff like that, like maybe a little bit of silk. We're gonna see. I don't know, it's been eons since I pulled out the drum carder. I'm gonna be so real. But I'm gonna have a new studio space soon, so I'll be able to do this stuff a little bit easier. Yeah, this is the OG fiber. It looks like raspberries, so I really want to make a bat that is reminiscent of raspberries or like hibiscus tea or something like that. I don't know. That's the vibe. That's the energy that we're shooting for with this bat. I grabbed some lighter locks, so now I feel like I want to do some darker pinks too. Maybe one day I'll get into acid dyes. Like, I won't just do natural dyes, but for now, that's all I dabble with. Plus, it's Tour de Fleece, so, like, I gotta get some bats ready. I gotta get some bats going. Sorry, I'm just, like, fiddling around with all the things that I can do on here. I have no idea if there's, like, a chat, and if I should be able to see it, but we're gonna see. We're gonna find out. We're learning as we go today. I did a TikTok live last night that went fairly well. Cool. There we go. Yeah, these are my 4th of July plans. I'm really just trying to get some carding done. Luckily, most of this fiber is like pretty clean, so that certainly helps. If you can hear birds in the background too, that's live. That's real. I have my window open. It's a pretty nice day here, I have to say. Once I have enough of like a pink base down, I'm gonna start adding other stuff. Because I have like this whole other bag of like fun things that we can add. I have some like sari silk, and some regular silk and some other colored wools and all of these fun things. And so I'm hoping to add them to this. Because I need some new fun things to spin. I'm making a challenge for myself to spin every day in July. And so I would really like to have some fun stuff to spin, frankly. This is definitely gonna need 2 passes through the drum carder. There's always less wool than I think there is at the beginning when I'm just like starting the bat. 1 sec, I'm gonna pop off cam and see if I can see my own live on here. Let's look. Oh god, my coffee in the background and my like whole setup back there is cringe as heck, but that's alright. Yeah. Alright, I need more wool. Yeah, this is what I mean, like I have lighter pink, and then I have darker pink. Gonna have to use it all eventually, but I'm trying to do a mix for now. I know, I haven't finished my morning coffee yet either, which I really should. Alright, I think we need... I think I just need to, like, finish this clump, and I think that'll be enough as a base for this. And then I have to actually figure out the colors that I'm gonna add. Pink, obviously. I kind of want to add some purple. I don't have a lot of purple, but we're gonna try to find some. Or yellow. I don't want to do purple and yellow because I don't really love having those colors next to each other in a yarn. We're gonna look through. We're gonna see what we have. Maybe like pinks and yellows. That sounds like a good first one. Ooh, like strawberry lemonade. That's gonna be the... Maybe that should be like the inspiration for this one. Strawberry lemonade. Raspberry lemonade. That's even better. That's even better. I said I was just gonna finish that clump, but I'm adding a little bit more. I just love this real, like, darker color, this darker pink, this real, like, raspberry pink that I was able to accomplish with the lac. Whenever I talk about, too, like, people have such a narrow idea of what natural dyes can do and are capable of, but natural dyes are really, they're fun. And they can do a lot. They can pack a real punch if you know what you're doing. The key to a good natural dye, too, is not just getting your concentration right, but also getting your mordant right. That is arguably more important than getting your concentration right. Alright. We got a decent base here. I'm gonna scoot this a little bit so you guys can see better. We got a decent base. I think this is a nice, like, ooh, see right there, you can see, like, the true color, that, like, raspberry pink. So I have this little bit of sari silk that I'm definitely gonna add. Let me pop open our little box here. Here's the thing, I don't have a lot of purple. I don't have a lot of purple. I have a lot of green. I have a lot of blue. It's probably time that, like, I get a little bit more fiber from other sources, but, like, also, I have so much to use, so why don't I just use what I have? I haven't really dug through this bag. You know what? I'm gonna stick with what I said. We're gonna do yellows. Not... See, this is too, like, marigold, though, I think. I feel like I need something... Ooh. This is nice. That, ooh. Yes. I think we're gonna add that. Okay, okay. I'm seeing some gold. This yellow. Okay. Do we have feelings? See, I feel like this one's a little bright. I feel like this one is more this little bit of yellow that I'm getting. Yeah, I am prepping for Tour de Fleece. Thank you for asking. I am not on a team this year, but every year I try to challenge myself to, like, do something special in July, and this year, because I, like, didn't spin all of last month, which is very uncharacteristic of me, I thought it was a good challenge to, like, try to spin every day in July. And I need to make some fun bats, because I think that'll motivate me to actually, like, spin every day. I'm batless right now. You can see I have lots of hand-dyed braids behind me that, like, you know, I could spin, but I'm just not in the mood to spin braids right now. If you've been following along with my channel for a while, you know that I have just been spinning a lot of braids lately, and I think I'm just burnt out on the braids. But we're gonna add this pink Sari Silk first. And one of the reasons that I love Sari Silk is because, like, I don't know if the camera is going to pick this up. I'm going to try to give you guys a real up close and personal look. I don't think it's picking it up. It looks just pink, but there's also, like, really tiny strands of, like, blues and yellows and oranges and greens in here, and I just think it adds, like, a nice dimension to any project to mix in a nice amount of Sari Silk. And admittedly, a little bit does go a long way. I'm going to be so real with you. And I'm not too worried. Like, I'm trying to get an even blend across it, but at the end of the day, I am going to be sending this through the drum carder twice, because I do think that that makes a really smooth bat. It's just, like, my preference. Especially when you're working from a raw fleece. I think that if you're working from just, like, combed prep, it's a little bit different. I think it's a lot easier to get away with just sending the fiber through the drum carder once and being able to spin from that, and that's fine. Obviously, if you want a more, like, blended, speckled kind of result, you are going to have to probably send it through again. But when it comes to working with, like, fleece and then mixing in other elements, I do recommend sending it through twice, because you really want to open up those locks. It'll just make the spinning experience on the tail end a lot easier. Alright, we've got some nice bright pinks. I think it's time we add a little bit of yellow, a little bit of... Oh. I don't want my tunes to disappear. I have, like, a little bit of background music going on for my own sake, just so I have something to listen to. I don't even know if you guys can hear it that well, but... Actually, so the silk I applied directly to the drum carder, you might have noticed, because silk and bamboo and certain other, like, just, I don't know, clingy materials will tend to get stuck on the liquor end of even the best of drum carters. And I will say, I think I have one of the best drum carters. I love classic drum carters. No one's paying me to say that. This is the only piece of spinning equipment I've ever bought, like, brand new, full price, full disclosure, and I just love it. I think it's so nice. And a lot of things don't get stuck on the liquor in. Like, my liquor in is completely clean as of right now, but silk gets stuck on even the best of them. So I do recommend, at least personally, I like applying it directly to the drum carder and letting it get passed over by this brush, which pushes it down, and so it doesn't get stuck on the liquor in when it comes back around. Whereas something like this, like wool, you can easily send through, and it's not going to get stuck on the liquor in. So these we're just going to send through. I'm just going to kind of, like, spread it out into a sheet. Again, this is how I do it. You don't have to do it this way, but I make some pretty smooth bats, in my opinion, and I think part of it is, like, the pre-prep before it even goes into the drum carder. And then I'm not gonna spin too fast, too. I see a lot of people, they go very quick. That's one of the reasons you'll never catch me with an automated drum carder, unless I can help it. Like, obviously, if somebody sent me an automated drum carder, I am in no business to turn it down. I'm a small, broke artist like everybody else. And, you know, tools to make art are tools to make art. But it is my preference to have a hand crank, just personally, because I think it's easier to make sure you go slow. I think a lot of automated drum carters go at a speed that no one would ever drum at, like, realistically, at least in my opinion. And I think it makes bats that reflect that are not as well blended as they could be. That's just my 2 cents, though. Again, everybody, like, has different preferences as to what they want their bats to be and feel like and look like, and just like anything else, like, spinning is very, 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 what is it, subjective, objective, whichever one is it's your opinion, man. Like, everybody has a preference, you know. Lots of people ask me, like, what's the best spinning wheel? And spinning wheels are like, gosh, what's something that's wildly custom? Spinning wheels are kind of like, if you know anyone who's ever had to get a wheelchair, wheelchairs have to be, like, really super designed to that individual. And that's what it kind of reminds me of, because some spinning wheels are better for people who are tall, some spinning wheels are better for people who are super short, some wheels are going to be better for people who have, like, hip pain versus knee pain. There's just a lot of different factors. Some spinning wheels are better for cotton versus wool. Like, there's so many different things. Oh, thanks for coming to hang out, Alexis. Oh, what are you knitting, too? I do love a good knit, even though I'm not a very good knitter myself. Oh my gosh, all the way from France. Thank you for joining us. Ooh. I might have overpacked it a little bit here. I can see, like, a little bump, but that's why, again, we're gonna send it through the drum carder twice. It's totally fine, you know? Ooh, the outline tank. I hope it works up quickly and you're able to wear it very soon, because it's that season. I don't know about you guys, but it's hot here. It's officially summer here, finally. You know, PubCub, I think it really depends on technique, like anything else. I think that you need to always be a little bit gentle with your carder. I will say, I've had this carder for, like, I don't know, 2 years now? At least a year and a half. And I've not yet run into any issues. I also got a direct demo on how to use it from the maker who makes these. And he has, like, a free, like, I'll fix it if it breaks kind of, like, policy. So I feel like if it did do significant damage, then he would have warned me about it. The one thing I was warned is that, like, there's a brush that I have. It's right here. Okay, so this guy, and I only use this brush to clean my drum carder and my liquor in. I never use this brush to blend the fibers on the drum carder. I see a lot of people do that. That's a recipe for time damage, I will say, especially if you do have a heavier hand. And I say that as somebody who does have a heavier hand and just can't trust myself, like, doing that technique and not doing some kind of damage to the tines. But I don't know, I've seen no significant change or real wear and tear. I actually just oiled this for the first time today. Just like a spinning wheel, it's recommended that if you have any metal on metal sections, you should once in a while oil them with, like, a little bit of, I have this container of spinning wheel oil, but it's essentially just like the same oil you would use for a spinning wheel, or not a spinning wheel, a sewing machine. Oh, hello, California. California has such a great fiber arts history. The Straw to Gold Fiber Store, which is kind of the, like, name that I'm homaging with my Wool to Gold name, is located in California, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I know that I need a lock pop. I just tend to buy a lot of equipment secondhand, and one hasn't come up or come available to me yet. I totally should invest in one because I process a lot of fleece. But I also don't mind popping the locks myself. I really don't. It gives me an opportunity to like get any stuff that might still be in the fiber out because I am a carder and not a comber. I really don't like to comb. And I know that combing removes a lot more VM, but this is my way of removing the VM before carding is, I guess, hand pop. I don't know, maybe a lock popper would also do that. It probably would. I feel like, I'm gonna be honest, I'm moving to a new state in like, what is it? It's the 4th, so 5 days, very exciting. And I'm on a budget right now, so I'll get a lock popper eventually. It's coming my way. I see it in my future. Welcome, welcome, Julia. We're happy to have you. All the way from the Netherlands. Hello, Annika. Very cool. Vegas. Thank you for joining us, Dre. We're making a strawberry lemonade bat right now, or raspberry lemonade, because you can't tell me this doesn't look like it was dyed with like raspberry juice. It wasn't. It was dyed with lac, which is still a natural dye. I'm about to do so much natural dyeing this month once I move into my new place too. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. There's gonna be a lot of content this month because I'm moving and I'm in between ending a job and starting a new job, so I have a lot of time for fiber shenanigans. And I think that's gonna be fun for everybody. There's gonna be a lot to see. I am posting a new YouTube video today. Today's YouTube video is more of like a personal vlog. It's not really craft related, full disclosure. But I don't know. I mix in a few of those every once in a while because some of you guys really like the like more personal vlogs. And if you don't like that stuff, in like 2 days, I'm gonna have another fiber vlog. So just wait for that. Oh my gosh, it's 3:30 a.m. in Australia. That's wild. Australia is one of those places that I have always like admired for the biodiversity. It does scare me a little bit, but in the same way that like the rainforest scares me and the ocean in like a respectful way, you know, I think a lot of cool stuff lives out in Australia and I'm like an environmental guy. I love like an ecosystem. Yeah, Julia, you know what it is too? I love getting secondhand spinning equipment for 2 reasons. One, the price, because spinning is an expensive hobby. It's taken me years to build up the like collection, the flock that I have now. I have 2 spinning wheels. I have 1 drum carder. I have hand carders. I have hand combs, and I have a blending board. And that is the extent of my current collection. I love each of them, and I really appreciate having each of them. They're each great tools. But I love getting the stuff secondhand as well because it gives you a chance to connect with your local spinning community. I cannot count the amount of times that I have gone to buy secondhand equipment like a Lazy Kate or like more bobbins or something and connected with a spinner and ended up walking away with like a free fleece or like free fiber or just a new fiber friend or somebody to talk to about like spinning and stuff like that. One time I walked away from an estate sale with a vintage collection of dog hair samples that I later spun up and shared on here. So if you want to know more about dog yarn, you can go check out that. But yeah, I don't know. You just never know what you're gonna run into when you get stuff secondhand. It's awesome. Nova Scotia, love to see y'all. Love to see y'all represent. Some of my favorite fiber artists are located in like the Nova Scotia area, so that's very cool to hear. Y'all have good oysters too, if I'm remembering correctly. Oh man, Clemens or Clemis, however you pronounce it, they have good stuff. I recently bought, do I have it within reach? Maybe I don't. I thought I did. I thought I had it just like, oh, I do. Give me 1 second. You guys are you're gonna cackle. Look at this industrial size unicorn power scour that I bought from Clemis. They had the best price on the gallon when I was at Maryland Sheep and Wool. And so I went and scooped it up. Because I use an incredible amount of unicorn power scour. I have a normal size bottle in here as well, but I like refill the normal size bottle and then I use it and then I refill it again because it was time to invest. DJCB, how do I find these kinds of sales? So, okay, people who, I will be so honest, people who, like, know me and people who know, like, I'm pretty transparent online about, like, the state that I live in and the general area that I live in. Like, I live kind of near New York City, but not in New York. And as a result, like, people will DM me on Instagram and they'll be like, hey, if you're near here, like, there's a fiber artist who recently passed away, or like somebody who is relocating and selling a bunch of fiber stuff. Here, 1 second. Let me put this away. Yeah, so people will like DM me, but I also go on Facebook Marketplace, which is the only time, this is the only time that I use the dreaded Facebook. I'm gonna be so real with you. I go on Facebook Marketplace, and that is a great place to connect with, especially like the older community of spinners, because spinning, like many other, I'm not gonna go and call spinning an endangered hobby because it's not. Lots of people do it, and it's becoming more popular, in my opinion. But there's always a risk for any like slightly less popular craft to become endangered in only a few generations. Spinning especially, definitely, like, there were many times where I think spinning was at a threat of becoming an endangered hobby because we went almost overnight, like, at least in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of humanity, we essentially went overnight from having to, like, weave and spin all of our textiles and make them from hand to, like, getting them industrially made, and that hugely impacted the hobby, obviously. But it's had its renaissances. I think it's going to have another renaissance coming up. And so, but there are gaps. So, like, there's certain generations where I notice, like, there's just not as many spinners from a certain age group. I'm trying to change that among my age group, okay? Late 20s, coming into my sexy 30s, right? 30 is the new 20, at least that's what I think. Yeah, so many fiber communities are still on Facebook. I really do think it's because the backbone of the fiber community is a little bit on the older side. They have so much great information and wisdom to share, though, so that's why I brave Facebook for that. Craigslist is also surprisingly productive. I still use Craigslist a lot. I still really like Craigslist. I secretly think that Craigslist is, like, low-key underrated. I found some like amazing deals via Craigslist because people just, like, it's kind of like Goodwill. Like, people don't really know what they have. Sometimes they're just emptying out grandma's, like, attic, and they're like, who wants all of this yarn? And you know what? Say what you want about those, like, old school pesticides that used to definitely 100% give people cancer. But they do a really, really good job of preserving yarn. Anytime I open, like, an antique old yarn box that somebody used, these, like, there are always these, like, old school pellets that are wrapped in this wax paper, and sometimes they look like they're soaked in, to me it looks like tobacco juice. Obviously it's not. Obviously it's some concoction of cancer-causing chemicals that keep the mice, moths, any sort of, like, insects that would have caused the fiber damage at bay. But anytime I find stuff that has that, pristine, not a moth in sight, baby. That stuff is good to go. If you're ever worried about getting stuff secondhand too, especially like fiber, whether it's spun or not, just leave it in your car. Leave it in your car for like a week on a hot summer week, and it will get rid of those moths. Because it's a good precaution to take. Yeah, no, fiber arts are definitely, like, people joke all the time that like, what I do is a, what is it, what would you call it? like an apocalypse skill, I guess is the word, which I do think is accurate. Yeah, I'm not brave enough to do some of the, like, really hardcore endangered crafts, like null binding. If I ever start null binding, send help. Send help, I'm probably losing it. In the most respectful way possible to all the null binders out there. Oh, looms? I love a loom. I don't really weave yet myself, but my dream is getting, like, a giant floor loom and just having it take up an entire room of my house, and then making fabric, making whole bolts of fabric. I feel like that's such a cliche dream, though. I do. I feel like that's what every young weaver says. Oh yeah, freezing. Freezing yarn is also a good option if you're worried about the critters. If you have a freezer big enough, like a freezer chest, that's a great option. I have heard that you have to leave the fiber in a frozen environment a little bit longer to kill whatever might be lurking in the fiber. One time I bought fiber and I thought that it was filled with bugs because I found these little round things in it. And then a few weeks later, the internet brought it to my attention that it was probably just something that they use in the dyeing process that I was not, like, super familiar with. Still freaked me out. I left that stuff in the freezer for months, like literally 2 or 3 months. Yeah, so Joe, though, I only use natural dyes. When I experiment with hand dyeing, I only use natural dyes. I love using wood-based dyes, which sounds kind of funky, but like logwood, Brazil wood, what's the yellow one? Osage orange is also the bark or the wood of the Osage orange tree, as opposed to like the fruit or the leaves. I love the colors that those produce, but I also use other, like, plant-based dyes. I have a bunch of indigo that I've been wanting to experiment with. I just haven't had anything to dye with indigo. But when I move into my new place, I do want to, like, I want to thrift a lot of the stuff that I use to decorate, and so I will probably have to do some re-dyes and some dye-overs and things like that, and so I'll probably be doing more natural dyeing very soon. You know, Alexis, I am not sure how I'm gonna spin this yet. I have no idea, frankly. I might turn it into an art yarn. I might turn it into a 2-ply. My default spin is like a DK weight. Lately, I've been spinning a little lighter than I would have liked. Like, I've been pulling a lot of sport weight yarns on accident. And so I'm trying to keep it thick, you know, because I use a lot of DK weight yarn. So that is my favorite weight of yarn to spin because I know that I can keep it and use it for myself. But I do have a small, like, online handspun yarn shop that I do, like, monthly drops where I will sell the yarn that maybe didn't come out like the weight that I wanted, but, like, obviously is still beautiful and someone will use. But I just personally don't have a lot of use for certain types of yarns. Um, that's the benefit of having that little online shop. It is a good little space for me to put my art into the world and send it to somebody who's actually going to use it. Because I do spin a lot of yarn running this channel. Boy, howdy. It piles up really fast, too. When I first started hand spinning, I was like, gosh, I'm never going to have a hand spun collection. I'm never going to have, like, extra hand spun to pull from. I'm always going to be planning projects and having to spin the yarn, and then I'm going to use all the yarn, and then I'm going to have to start all over again. I was a fool. I was a fool. The yarn piles up so fast, it's unbelievable. Kiki, or Kwee, I'm not really sure how to pronounce the username, but I use my mordant, my go-to mordant is alum. I have almost always, in almost all cases, I've used alum as a mordant, except one time when I used these, like, mud dyes that I believe are Japanese, and I had to use a different type of mordant for that, and that was a little weird. That was crazy, because it didn't need to be heated. It had to be massaged into the fiber. I found it all very fascinating. Or soot ink. No, it was soot ink. It wasn't mud. It was soot ink-based dyes. And that's the only time I haven't used alum. But I love alum. I think alum is a great, like, beginner mordant. And I would definitely consider myself a beginner dyer. Yeah, I really only dye protein-based fibers. So I only dye wool for the most part. Like, I haven't really dabbled much into dyeing cotton. I would like to, but I haven't really gotten to that part of my journey. I have, like, the soda ash for it. And something else. I have some other type of, like, thing I think I need for plant-based dyeing. Someone got it for me for Christmas, and I just haven't busted into it yet. I say months and months after Christmas. That's kind of embarrassing, but that's okay. I was working a lot of extra overtime at my job because I was trying to, again, I am moving. So I was trying to move, and moving is really expensive. So I haven't been fiber arting as much as I would like to. But again, I have a little bit of time to myself, so I'm trying to get at least a little bit of fiber art stuff done. I shouldn't undersell myself. I actually washed like 2 whole fleeces this past week. One was 4 pounds and one was 3 pounds. And most of it is dry. The last of it is actually drying. Ooh, it's drying in the other room, and I should probably put it in the sun, but I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that later. Alright, we're gonna add this fun kind of gold. I don't know if it's silk, tussa silk, or bamboo. It's giving tussa silk to me. I think it's silk. I don't know. I might do a burn test later. I might not. That's not a lie. I totally will. I totally will later. I'm gonna save a little bit of it, and I'll do a burn test, and I'll find out. Either way, I have been liking bamboo a little bit more lately, especially because I was gifted a bunch of it, so I've just had it for like 2 years, but I've kind of just like held on to it because I didn't like spinning it alone, but I do like it blended into bats. So you should always mordant first. Cause the mordant, at least to my understanding, like, and I could really be butchering this, so please, like, it's okay, if I get it wrong, tell me in the comments, but to my understanding, the way that a mordant basically works is that you imagine the fiber as, like, super smooth, right? And if you were to apply a dye to it, the fiber, the dye has nothing to attach to on the fiber, because it just, like, falls off. So what the mordant does is it forms like a structure, like a chrysalis on the outside that makes it easier for the dye to adhere to. I'm like at least that's I think how alum works. I could be really butchering this. I am no dye scientist. My science focus is really on bugs, and that's the limit of my knowledge in that regard. But yeah, so you usually have to mordant first, unless the dye you're using is a mordant in itself. So there are some dyes which are tannin-based, like acorns and tea and coffee, that are in themselves a mordant and will mordant for you. Those also exist. The wild world of spinning. So, Audrey, I will say, I am going to be back at New Jersey Sheep and Wool for sure. Like, I'm totally attending New Jersey Sheep and Wool this year, so don't you worry. But I'm only just moving to Delaware. I am moving to not exactly this city, but in this area. Obviously, for privacy reasons, I like to, like, not disclose the exact city, but I'm moving to, like, the Rehoboth Beach area. And I'm really, really excited. I just think it's going to be a really good change of pace for me. I think, I don't know, I did a whole video on why I'm moving too here on YouTube. So if you want to hear like all the reasons and the whole like lengthy story to it, you can go check that out. But the short of it is that I have wanted to move for a while. I have been trying to move for a while. I finally got a lease available to me, and I'm really excited to finally be moving. I also recently did like a big crochet stash down because I wanted to get rid of as much yarn as I could before I moved. Or not get rid of, but like make it into something productive that I could use to decorate my apartment. And that's another reason I want to make a bunch of bats, because I feel like bats are much nicer to look at compared to just like a bunch of random corner stuff with raw fiber. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I just think the bats will be more aesthetic, and I'll want to like display them, and then I'm gonna want to spin them. I did see that somebody asked me which drum carder I use. This is the classic carder. The classic carder. It is, to be specific, the model is, it's made in ash wood, and it's the standard high side model. I swear by this drum carder. I think it's one of the best ones on the market. I really, 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 really like it. It brings me so much joy. One guy makes them, and I think he's a really good like craftsman slash artisan. And if I had the opportunity or the funds, I totally would buy another larger drum carder from that same brand. Because again, I like that if you have any issues with it, you can contact him literally directly. In fact, he like begs you to. He's so friendly and nice. He's really thought out the design to be a little bit more inclusive and easy to use than I think a lot of other drum carders. And considering how expensive drum carders are, I think that they should be good tools, right? Like a cheap drum carder is $400. A budget drum carder is $400. For $400, I don't really just want a drum in a box. And it is crazy that you have brands out here that charge upwards of $800, $900 for a drum in a box. It should be more than that. There should be some thought put into the design, which is why I really like this drum carder. Again, no one paid me to say that. In fact, I paid him for this bad boy. Worth every dang penny. I saved for like a year and a half. It was so worth it. That's like one of the reasons I don't really have any sort of like fiber-based sponsors for my channel or anything like that, is because I don't want to feel pressured to lie about specifically like fiber tools, because they are just so expensive. Like even hand carders or hand combs, which are arguably like introductory fiber processing tools, can cost like average $100. And so I just don't like the idea of like ever feeling pressure to be like, no, these are great, when they aren't, just because somebody paid me to say as much. Plus, so much of my equipment is used. So like I didn't even pay the actual company. Like the wheels that I bought, I feel like you can trust my opinion on my wheels because I bought them from like some woman named Sue in Pennsylvania. You know, like my opinion of the wheels is not going to impact Sue's life. So I feel like I can speak freely. Spindles are so fun, and there are so many pretty ones. It's very easy to collect. I choose to call it a flock of spindles. I suggest you adopt that terminology, right? Like a horde is intimidating. A flock is something to marvel at. You know, you got a little collection going. Nothing wrong with that. Alright, I definitely can't fit a ton more fiber onto here, but I am going to try to see just exactly how much I can fit before things start to get sticky. And then we're going to pull this drum off, this bat off, finally, and we're going to look at it briefly, and then I'm going to take it into a bunch of tiny pieces and send it through again. This is much better. I'm going to use this. This is easy to pull apart. I'm starting to get impatient, so I'm not opening the locks as much as I should. But that's okay, because I am going to card it again. Plus, I'm the one spinning this. I'm a lot less careful about my bats when I'm like, well, it's me. Like, if I run into a little lump, like, I'll just deal with it. If they're bats that are gonna go into the shop update, it's a whole other process. A flock. A flock of spindles, like a flock of sheep. Yeah, there are just so many different kinds of spindles too, from like all over the world and all these different cultures, and that's also what makes, I think, collecting spindles so fun. All right, we're reaching an apex here. Honestly, I'm not gonna try to jam any more fiber on here. For once in my life, I'm gonna have some self-control, and I'm not gonna try to force any more fiber on here. I am gonna have some coffee for a second before we pull this sucker off. Sarah Barker, try again. Soak it and try again. I see nothing wrong with soaking it and trying again, unless you somehow severely felted the yarn but didn't successfully thwack it. There's no reason that you can't rethwack it. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that's gonna stop the fiber from taking that on. So how many runs do I put the fiber through? Usually 2. The only time I will send fiber through the drum carder a single time is if I'm working from all prepared fiber. What do I mean by that? I mean fiber like this, something that is pre-prepared. It is usually in like a combed, but there is like pre-prepared carded fiber. The reason that you can send that through only once is because you don't need to open the locks any further. When I am trying to make a bat from raw sheet fleece like this, or raw sheet fleece like this, right? This one is bright white, hasn't been dyed yet. If you look, right, if I pull out like a nice chunk of locks, this is a nice, beautiful specimen right here. You can look up at like the very tips of it, right? And you see how the tips kind of tend to stick together, even though this fiber I think was scoured 4 times. So it's clean. It smells really nice. Like it's not really like gross and dirty. It's just that the tips tend to like stick together in a lot of finer wools, medium wools, long wools, almost all wools, frankly. And so you have to like pull those tips apart. And so to make sure that my locks are fully opened, that none of those tips are still sticking apart, I always send it through the drum carder at least 2 times. There have been times where I've had to do 3 times, but in those cases, when I go to make another bat, I will focus more time and energy on pulling apart the fiber. The only time that I've ever had to send bats through 3 times is when I am working with a cotted fleece. That's cotted, cotted. And that's essentially when, so sometimes sheep wear coats. You've probably seen the coats, they're very cute. And the coats are meant to protect that fiber from getting hay and dirt and gross things in it so that the shepherd can sell that fleece for an even more amount of money, okay? The thing about coats is they're expensive and you need to change them out as the fleece grows. So one sheep could have 6, 8, 10 different coats. You have a flock of how many sheep? The average flock, I mean, at least in this area, is at least like 30 to 40 sheep. And that's like, we're talking backyard farm in that case. Like, that's a small amount of head. When you think about like the amount of head that they have out west, it really, that cost starts to add up, even if the coats are only like a few dollars, which they're not. And so sometimes if you don't switch out those coats quickly enough, the tips of the wool will rub up against the coat and it will get felted. And that's what we call a cotted fleece, okay? So if you're ever at a fleece sale and there's a judge stand and they've gone through all the fleeces and you're reading the notes on the fleeces and it says like mildly cotted, some cotted spots. Usually that's what they're talking about. There's going to be some spots of the fleece where the very tips of it are felted together. I bought one of those fleeces once because it was mad cheap and the entire thing wasn't cotted. It was just certain portions. But to date, is the trickiest fleece that I've ever worked with. The fleece that has taken the most manpower, labor, and time to finish. And the only fleece that remains still in my collection to this day after 2 years. All my other fleeces I've worked through. I have no other fleeces that are 2 years old sitting in my collection. So, you know, keep that in mind. Like, sometimes the time investment is worth it for a fleece that's a little bit less expensive, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's, like, a pain in the butt. Derek White, I mean, listen, can wool be overcarded? I mean, like, not really, but I do think that, like, recarding wool over and over and over again, especially aggressively, you do start to risk, like, felting and things like that. But assuming you're being gentle, like, I don't know. I don't really think personally that it can be overcarded. Because here, let me pull out, like, something that's been, like, industrially carded. Right, because I was talking before about how there's, like, prepared combed fiber like this that was prepared in, like, some sort of, like, spinning facility or what's it called, like, factory, or just a larger setting. This was done with a larger machine. This is not hand combed. There's also preparations that are not hand carded. They're roving that are made on, like, a big machine. There's a really great Instagram, I think it's Junction Mill, if you want to see what mill equipment looks like, because I personally find that stuff so cool, so fascinating. If I won the lottery, you would not know except that I would buy a mill. I would buy a mill just to preserve some of that equipment. I mean, it's beautiful. And there's not a lot like it left in the US, which is why it's so hard to process fiber entirely here in the US. But this is what, like, an industrial carder will produce. And you can see those fibers are so unbelievably airy and misaligned, and, like, this is great spinning. This is honestly one of the easiest things to spin that I've ever had in my life. Yeah, it really is always a trade-off between time and money. Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. That's always so nice to hear. Audrey, I have worked with 100% cotton. I am... If I say it, then I'm afraid I'm not gonna do it. But I do have plans to do, like, a little summer fiber episode where I spin some pineapple, some bamboo, and some cotton that I have. I also spun cotton balls in a recent, like, not that recent, actually. I don't know, a few months ago on the podcast, I spun cotton balls. Yes, Junction Fiber Mill. Thank you, Killspun. Junction Fiber Mill. I love the like, woman who is always featured in the video brings me so much joy. Like, I feel like we're connected in the soul. That's what I would look like if I was at a fiber mill every day. Oh, very cool. I do always love a good, like, textile exhibit. Okay, let's take this sucker off. Yeah, honestly, the cotton balls made me miss the combed cotton that I had. I also have naturally colored cotton, which is cotton that grows not white. It grows brown and red and green and sometimes even blue. And I really like supporting the farm Vreese's, or, yeah, Vreese's cotton is what they go by now. Vreeseis. I don't know. If you look up Vreese's cotton, I promise it's going to come up. They do some really, really cool work. And I have some of that cotton, and I've been wanting to spin it forever, but I've just kind of been saving it because I was like, oh, I'm not good enough at spinning cotton to deserve to spin this fancy cotton. Who cares? Who cares? We might be going to war. I'm going to spin the fancy cotton, you know? Like, I don't know. I also just don't believe that line of thinking is very productive for artists. Like, always being like, oh, I should only use, like, the nice stuff, like, when I'm good enough or when I deserve to use the nice stuff, you know? You're never gonna get good enough then, because you're not practicing. Yes, I hope that I get to attend Rhinebeck this year. I think I'm gonna pull it off. I always do. I always find a way, somehow, to go to a fiber festival and spend way too much money. But it's okay, because I do finally have, like, a business account for the stuff that I do for YouTube and for my, like, small online shop as well. And that really has made it easier to be able to, like, invest in materials and things like that. All right. Oof. I'm gonna have to vacuum after this. So you don't need a charka to spin cotton, and I am lucky enough that my wheels are able to, I'm able to adjust the ratio enough and make it high enough that I can spin cotton on both of my wheels. But if you don't have a fast flyer, or a high speed whirl is often what they're called, kind of just across all the brands, then it can be a lot trickier to spin cotton without like a charka or like a separate tool to do so. Also, you get a handy dandy porcupine with this drum carder, which I use all the time. I will say, I really like it. It's a nice touch. Yeah, so the reason that people are often under the impression that you need a charka is because you do, in order to spin cotton easily and quickly, you do need a very high ratio. You need something that goes like very high speed. And not all wheels are capable of doing that high speed, or even with like like different parts, they don't have the ability. Like, I do think that like spinning cotton on a standard Ashford is a little tricky. Not all wheels can handle it, and it really depends on the weight of cotton yarn that you're trying to spin. I shouldn't generalize like that. If you do spin, you could probably spin a thicker cotton on a standard Ashford with no adjustments, but it would probably pill a lot. Like, there's logistical things that you have to think about when you make concessions, like, okay, so I can't spin it at a high enough ratio to do a lightweight cotton that I ply up into a strong yarn, so I just spin it thick. But the reason that cotton is often spun so thin and then plied up into larger yarns is because it has a very short staple, and it needs high twists to hold together and not pill. So you are inviting that risk of that yarn being more likely to pill on to you. And like when you're just like messing around, that's totally fine. But if you go to like make a project, these are just things that you like have to think about as a spinner. Oh yeah, for sure, Fire Love 365. I don't remember exactly what they're called, but there are specifically high-speed cotton spindles that people use. They're the same ones that people use to spin cashmere. If you look up the cashmere spindle, you can use, I've heard of a lot of people having a lot of success using that to spin cotton yarn. At least in my travels with other cheap spinners who don't want to buy a whole other wheel just to spin something different. There are many of us. It's so funny, Alexis, that you say that this bat is thick, because I actually think it's really thin and small compared to the bats that I usually do. That makes me feel better about this bat. I shouldn't be bat conscious, you know? In order to send it back through the carder, though, we have to, like, take really small sections and, again, turn them into, like, sheets and then send them back through. And it's just going to make the whole thing more even and well blended. Yes, oh my gosh, if you've been trying on the Ashford Traditional, don't feel like it's your fault that you can't spin cotton. I think if you try spinning it on the appropriate tool, you will have much better luck. That's, like, one of my favorite things about spinning, too, is that, like, sometimes it's really not your fault that something's working out. Sometimes it's really, like, you do need a different tool, or you really need to adjust something. Like, there's a lot to know with spinning. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, this is actually, guys, this is my premiere YouTube live. This is my first YouTube live ever. Shout out if you were in the TikTok live that I did last night for the first time in like months. Y'all hyped me up and were like, you should totally do a bat making live or something like that tomorrow. And again, I just kind of want to get back into the rhythm of doing lives and stuff like that, because it does give me an opportunity to like talk to you guys in real time about like the stuff that you want to see. So like now I'm totally gonna do like a summer spin episode. Honestly, that might be what I put on my wheel next, because my wheel is empty. Because oh my gosh, I'm gonna show you guys the yarn that I just spun. You guys are gonna be the first ones to see it. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna bring it down. Oh, and it's almost dry already. Dang. It's not completely dry, but it's almost dry. It is this gorgeous 2-ply fractal / self-striping yarn that I spun from a fossil fiber braid. Obviously, this is not like the most aesthetic shot of it, but as you can see, it's, I don't know, I love it. I think it came out super pretty. It is Targi wool, bamboo, and silk, so it might possibly be the softest yarn I've ever spun. It's so soft and it's so cushy. It fluffed up so freaking much when I washed and thwacked it, and it was already so fluffy on the bobbins. It took 2 whole bobbins, like so full that I literally had to hand wind the last few yards on to complete this yarn, because it holds so much air. It's just so nice. And that is my first thing that I completed for Tour de Fleece. Okay, I think for being only 4 days in and already having a yarn done, a whole 4 ounces spun, not too shabby, especially because I have not spun anything in like a whole month. So I'm getting back into it. That's the challenge again for the month. I have to spin every day, so. Melanie. So Lincoln is a really interesting fiber, because depending on the flock, there's a lot of different things you can do with it. So I have interacted with Lincoln flocks that are like surprisingly fine. I would argue almost medium, as opposed to like long coarse wools. And something like that, I've gotten away with using Lincoln blended with other stuff for like hats and scarves and things like that. I don't think all Lincoln is appropriate for that. I don't think most Lincoln, in fact, is appropriate for that, unless you got it from like a spinner's flock, is often what we will call it. And so for Lincoln, I usually recommend something that you want to be really hard wearing and last forever. Personally, if you are someone who like is interested in textiles and like making like bags and things like that, I think Lincoln makes such a nice like, because it's shiny, it takes dye well. If it's white, it can make a really beautiful like weaving yarn for like bags and things like that. I also think that it makes a really good rug yarn. It will literally last forever. Like, this is an heirloom type of yarn. It's never ever gonna give up on you. I mean, arguably, if you did get a fine enough Lincoln wool fleece, you could probably make like an heirloom sweater. Lincoln was one of those wools that they used to turn into like a really great outerwear. And here's a secret that a lot of people are not willing to admit, but is 1000% true. Coarser wool keeps you warmer. Okay, the softer the wool, in many cases, the less warm it is. The prickle factor in wool is often what gives it some of its like insulation and like warming attributes. And so a wool like that, especially if it's a sweater that you're not going to wear right up against your body anyway, I mean, do it in your like family cable if you have one of those, and make it like an heirloom piece like that. I just think that would be really, really cool. Have fun, Ronald. I, again, just finished washing 7 pounds of Rommeldale wool, so I wish you the best of luck with scouring your fleece. It's worth it. It's worth it. Even though it can be hard this time of year with the heat, I did not want to scour that wool, but I'm so glad that I got it done, because now I'm gonna go to my new apartment with only clean wool, which was really the goal, the major goal. Ooh, this bat is blending up nice. This looks a lot nicer in my opinion than like this blended version, as opposed to like you can see the clear layers here. I have no idea if it dries faster. That's something I don't know. I know it takes a good while for wool to dry. I'm painfully aware of that, because again, I've been washing a lot of fleeces lately. And my least favorite part about washing fleeces is drying fleeces, because I just have nowhere to dry them. I'm gonna find silk all over me all day. All day. So for me, I'm not joining a Tour de Fleece team this year. What I'm doing instead is doing my own like Tour de Fleece challenge, because I'm moving in July. So I didn't feel like it was fair for me to join a team, because like I am trying to challenge myself to spin every day in July. But if that only means 15 minutes a day, like, that's okay. If I was in Tour de Fleece, I would feel bad, like, on the 9th, when I'm actively moving, I'd be, like, pulling out my wheel and being like, wait, Mom, I can't bring you out to lunch to thank you for helping me move. I have to, like, do my Tour de Fleece time. Like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm goofy, but I'm not that goofy. And so instead, I've been spinning for over 3 years now, and the 3-week to month break that I took last month, where I didn't spin at all, is the longest that I have ever gone not spinning since I started spinning. And so that's why I thought it was like appropriate to do a spin everyday challenge for my Tour de Fleece. Because it's kind of low stakes, right? Like, if I get 5 minutes in one day, that's okay. Because days like today, where I literally spend all day prepping fiber and spinning and things like that, I feel like outweigh it. It makes the balance, you know? Ooh, I do love a good Navajo churro. I spun a bunch of Navajo churro that I had left from like a year ago recently. It's just a fun spin. Spinning Navajo churro makes me smile. Ooh, spinning some alpaca for Tour de Fleece. I wish every day that I wasn't allergic to camelids, that I wasn't allergic to alpaca and camel and llama. I have this really, really beautiful, it's supposed to be an alpaca and llama blanket from Panama that my dad got years ago. But I kind of want to use it as like a wall hanging or tapestry in my new apartment. But I'm kind of scared, because honestly, just hanging it up might give me like itchy, like severe itchy nose, and trouble breathing and stuff like that. So I don't really know if it's like worth it. I just know having it on my bed was a no-go. It was making me so sick. Violet X, do I have any spinning wheels that I would recommend for art yarn? Okay, so personally, I don't. Like, out of personal experience, I don't have any wheels that are specifically made for art yarn. I've heard really good things about the Polywog. Something I will say about art wheels is that if you can, you really need to, you need to try all spinning wheels before you buy one. but art wheels specifically. I have known many a friend who's had to sell and then resell and buy a different art yarn spinning wheel because the one that they bought ended up not jiving with them in the way that they want to spin. The way that art yarn wheels, like the tensioning on them, can be really tricky and really different than regular wheels. And so I don't really feel comfortable like recommending a specific brand. All I know is that like a lot of my friends that like their wheels have the Polywog. At least I think it's called the Polywog. Watch me not even be naming the right wheel. But I do recommend, if you're interested in art yarns, you can do a lot with, and again, I bought this wheel secondhand. The brand doesn't pay me, so like, to hell with them. I don't really care, but I do love my shacked because I make all my art yarns on my shacked. All of the art yarns that I do, my bouclés, my super coils, all of those, my beaded yarns, they're all done on my shacked matchless, and I think she handles it very well. Would I call the shacked an art yarn wheel? Absolutely not, but it does have the ability to spin lace weight cotton yarn or thick and chunky art yarn up onto a certain size. I would say you can't do like jumbo, but you can do heavier than Erin. Yeah, I'm gonna sneeze. Shoo! Alright, ooh, okay. Little sneeze there, apologies. Yeah, personally, I really like a wheel that can do almost everything. That being said, if I was gonna buy another wheel, that's actually not true. If I was gonna buy another wheel, I'd probably try to get another used Lendrum, another DT if I could, because I think that would be helpful for lessons to have 2 DT Lendrums for people to use. Because then I could teach, like, 2 people at a time. If people wanted to do, like, me and my bestie learning how to spin yarn, I think that would be super fun. However, I also really want an art yarn wheel. I said I wasn't going to get one, like, 2 years ago, which is the exact way that I end up wanting things, because I'm always like, I always was like, oh, I'm never going to be one of those people who spins his own yarn. Like, that's so unhinged and crazy, and I'm never going to be one of those people. And look at me now. Look at me now. I'm like 3 steps away from owning sheep. So, yeah, I should have seen that one coming. But yeah, I also want an art yarn wheel. I'm gonna have to look into the Firefly and the Monarch. I did not like the Echo. The Echo, unfortunately, gave me really bad hit pain, which is this weird risk that I run with wheels, and I did not expect it to give me hit pain, which is crazy. But I've heard so many people love their wheels, so, like, again, every individual is different, but I would love to give those other options a try, the Firefly and the Monarch. Yes, I will have the room for it soon. Gosh, you know, I don't have a specific dream wheel right now. I'm gonna be honest with you. And there's a reason why, because I kind of already have my dream wheel. I always wanted a Shack matchless, and then I got one used, and I love, again, she's my ride or die. I've named her Marion. She's the best. And then I love my DT Lendrum. Like, I wouldn't trade either of the wheels that I have for the world, and that's why I don't really have, like, a dream wheel to add to the flock right now. I should make that a video, though. I should make that a video, looking for my next dream wheel. Because I am someone who's willing to search and search and search for months. That's how I got my Shack matchless. I waited so long for, like, a good quality used one for a reasonable price to come up on Facebook Marketplace, and I snatched it up. Because in my heart, I'm a thrifter, baby. I just love a deal. I love a used good. I think people are so quick to throw things away in this society, and if they're not going to have the good sense to save something and reuse it, then, like, I am going to. And that's why I love it. I do it for the game. It's not, even if I had the money to just buy a wheel new, I need people to understand I wouldn't. I would still get it secondhand. It's just like, it's a passion of mine. I also just don't buy a lot of things new in general. It's like something that if you get to know me, you'll find out very quickly, like, my entire wardrobe is thrifted. Almost my entire wardrobe. Excluding, like, some dress pants that I have for work and for, like, interviews and stuff like that. Everything is secondhand, including this Comme des Garçons button-up that I'm wearing today. This is, like, one of my favorite shirts. I can't believe I got this for, like, $15 at a thrift store. It was such a great find. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna write down that idea because I'm totally gonna forget it. Because I already have. Where's my little notebook? There it is. I already have the summer fiber idea written down, but this is why I have the notebook, because I forget everything. Everything. I'm always like, I'm not gonna forget this one. How could I? And it's like 6 months later, and I'm like, why do I have this? And then I remember very suddenly, and I get embarrassed, because I said I wasn't gonna forget. Joe, though, no. I've met wheels with man names. I've met wheels with lady names. I've met wheels who definitely go by they, them. In fact, one of my other wheel, my DT Lendrum, her name is Benny, which I do think is a little gender ambiguous. It is supposed to be like Benny and the Jets, because I don't know why. She just has that vibe to her. She's got this, like, playful, fun vibe, my DT Lendrum. Yes, so true about the thrift store. You do just find things that you don't find anywhere else. I definitely, too, am, like... The nice way of saying it is particular. I'm a bit rigid sometimes about the types of things that I like to see every day in my aesthetics. And so thrift stores tend to appeal to that more than, like, what is traditionally offered elsewhere. Not always. I do occasionally find, like, listen, I, like everybody else, loves World Market. Love World Market. I could spend so much money in a World Market. I don't, because I'm a baddie on a budget, and again, I would rather spend my money on art supplies, if I'm being honest. But I do love I love kitschy stuff, too. I look forward to having a very kitschy kitchen. That's a great name for a knee spinner. I quite like that. It reminds me of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. That reference is very telling of my age, but that's okay. Alright, this bat is done. I'm taking it off. We're gonna take a look. I think this is gonna look really nice. Raspberry lemonade. And then once I take this bat off and show it to you guys, I am probably going to have to hop off because it's about that time. I gotta take Bobo on a walk. I gotta take the puppy on a walk. I say puppy. He's not a puppy. He is a 100-pound dog that I love. I love dearly. And if you want to see more about him, you can go check out my dog yarn episode because he is featured on that. Or my Instagram. I actually recently posted some photos of him for his birthday. My current opinions on Etsy, I have no right to have, I should preface this, I have no right to have these opinions in that I have never used Etsy, but I never, ever, ever, ever wanted to get on Etsy because I just feel like they take a lot of money away from the seller, and that if you have any semblance of social media presence already, that just making your own website will probably drive you more money in the long run than an Etsy will. I don't know. I heard only bad things about Etsy. Like, everybody I asked who even was on Etsy was like, yeah, I have it, but I hate that I built up any sort of like user base there because now people don't go out of the way to find my website where I can offer them the product cheaper and I still get more of the money than I do on Etsy, which I don't like. I don't like that. I support artists making the money that they need to survive. And so that annoys me about Etsy. I don't like that. Because the argument is, oh, well, it drives people to your business, but it seems to drive people to 3D printed garbage first before it does drive people to actual small businesses. Drop shippers are also included in that burn. So that is also something I feel about Etsy. This is bat. This is the bat. Raspberry lemonade, rare, naturally dyed, Rommeldale wool blended with what I think is gold silk, a little bit of yellow merino, a little bit of pink sari silk. I feel like the sari silk isn't coming through on the video, but it does, like, there's lots of little bits and bobs of it all through, and I really like that. I think this is going to make a sweet yarn. I really want to turn this into an art yarn. Now that it's done, it's all blended up, for me, it's giving art yarn because I want to do an homage to the raspberry. Oh my gosh, guys, I have these red glass beads, these little red glass beads that reminded me of a pomegranate. Imagine a beaded yarn with those little red pomegranate glass beads plied with this plush raspberry lemonade bat. That's totally going on the wheel. I'm very excited. Very excited. This is gonna be great. Okay, thank you everybody for coming to the first ever Wool to Gold Live. This was rad. This was awesome. Thank you for hanging around and your video suggestions. Again, I really, that's one of the main reasons I would like to do the live, is to actually hear what you guys want to see, because I love and appreciate that my channel is growing so quickly, but sometimes I can't read all the comments, or I miss some of the comments with really good video suggestions. And I just feel like this is a good way to have like a one-on-one with y'all. So thank you again for coming to hang out, and hopefully I'll see you guys on the next one. Hopefully I get to do this again soon. Go make something and go drink some more.